Hey there, deep divers. We are going to look at deep diver sheet number 92. Now, in that last sheet, you guys got a little bit of practice doing adding and subtracting of fractions. In this sheet, you're going to do that a little bit more without the visualization, which honestly, I think the visualization is great for understanding just what's going on and why you need to do what you do here. Why you need to find the common denominator. But I think that in general, these are pretty easy to do once you understand that finding the common denominator is just going to be necessary. So here I have something over 3 minus something over 2. Well, in this case, the lowest common denominator is also the easiest common denominator to find. So I just do it like this. I think, oh, I'll just multiply my two denominators together. 3 times 2 is 6. And then I know that I've got to multiply the top of the number times the same as the bottom. Now, some of you guys have already done multiplication with fractions. And I show the multiplication with that little dot. We can show it with the x here. The x, if you don't know, that just means 2 over 2 times 17 over 3. And I think I've shown most of you guys this before, but if I haven't, bear with me. 2 over 2, of course, just equals 1. So when I do 2 over 2 times 17 over 3, all I'm doing is 1 times 17 over 3. Well, 1 times anything just gives me the same number. But when I write it like 2 over 2, I'm going to find an equivalent fraction that, because it will still equal the same thing as 17 over 3, but it's going to look like something that's over 6. That's why I multiply the top and the bottom times the same number, because all I'm doing is just multiplying it times 1, which is why I'm allowed to do that. It doesn't change the value of the number. It doesn't change the amount that that number is. It just changes what the denominator is. But to change what the denominator is, I also need to change what the numerator is, because 17 over 3, I have to change the numerator and the denominator. And so it actually ends up equaling 34 over 6. Because when I multiply, I do top times top, bottom times bottom. That's the way multiplication of fractions works. I multiply the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. So I get 34 over 6. Now, if you just had 34 over 6 and you wanted to reduce it, what you would do is you would think, oh, look, they're both even numbers. So I can reduce them by dividing them both by 2, and you'd get right back to 17 over 3. And that's how you can work both ways on this. When you're finding a common denominator, it's kind of like, very often it's sort of backwards reducing of fractions. And you guys have all done some reducing of fractions, I think, already. So I've got 34 over 6. And then I need to do it to this other side. I multiplied the 2 times 3, so I need to multiply the top times 3. I get 27. 9 times 3 is 27. So I multiply the top and the bottom times the same thing. And I get 34 minus 27 equals 7/6, right? And when I do the 34 minus 27, I just think, well, how much more is 34 than 27? I think, well, I know that 27 plus 3 gives me 30, and 30 plus 4 gives me 34. I just kind of add up when I'm doing that. I think that's the easiest way to do the 34 minus 27, is to just add up. You can subtract down. You can say 34 minus 4 is 30, and then minus 3 more is 27. You can work that way. And so altogether, the difference is 7, whether you add up or whether you subtract down. And that's what you're finding when you find the subtraction. Let's do this one over here. Look, same denominator, right, as last time. I've got a 3 and a 2, so I just do, I make my denominator 6. And I can write that much in right away and then think, oh, well, I multiplied the 2 times 3, so I need to multiply the top times 3. Here I multiplied the 3 times 2, so I need to multiply the top times 2. And altogether then I get 7/6 again. Interesting that it ended up to give me the same answer, even though it's a different question. Let's look at this one down here, because it involves a mixed number. And what I want you to remember about with a mixed number is you start at the bottom, you multiply the denominator times the whole number, and then add it to the numerator. 4 times 2 plus 2. So we can rewrite this as 18 fifths minus 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10, 10 fourths. Now, the reason that I do that when I'm looking at a mixed number is that if I'm looking at this as something over 4, I mean, well, 2 is like 4 over 4 plus 4 over 4. Because remember, any number over itself is 1. So 4 fourths is 1. Well, if I have 2, then 4 fourths is 1 plus another 4 fourths is another 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, right? So here I've got 2 and 2 fourths. Well, that's like 4 fourths plus 4 fourths, that's 2. Plus 2 fourths, that's my 2 and 2 fourths, right? This part right here is the 2, and this part is the 2 fourths, right? 2 and 2 fourths. Well, 4 fourths plus 4 fourths plus 2 fourths, 4 plus 4 plus 2 is 10. The shortcut that you can do is that since you know you've got 4 fourths for every one whole, you can just multiply 4 times however many whole numbers you have, and then add it to your fraction, your numerator. So if I've got 4 fourths plus 4 fourths, that's 8 fourths. That's the same as doing 4 times 2 is 8. And then I get 10 fourths. Here then I need to get a common denominator. An easy way to get the common denominator is to just multiply your denominators. So this is going to equal the same thing as something over 20 minus something over 20. And whatever this is in the top, I'm going to have to do the same thing to the top as I did to the bottom. So I multiplied that 5 times 4 to get 20. So I need to multiply my 18 times 4 to find out what that is. If you are not in my mental math class, then you might want to do 18 times 4 like this. 4 times 8 is 32. Carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. 72. If you're in my mental math class, you might know that 4 times 2 would be, or I'm sorry, 4 times 18 would be the same as 4 times 20 minus 4 times 2. 4 times 20 is 80, minus 4 times 2 is 8, and you'd get 72. You can also, of course, cut in half and double, which is another mental math trick that I use. You could do 4 times 18 is the same as 8 times 9. Double the 4 and cut the 18 in half, and you get 72. Either way, you get 72 over 20 as the equivalent fraction for the 18 fifths. And then 10 fourths, well, you multiplied the 4 times 5, right, to make that 20. So you need to multiply the 10 times 5, and you get 50. 10 times 5 is 50. And then altogether you get 22 over 20, which you can change back into a mixed number and say, oh, that's 20 over 20 plus 2 over 20. Just say that's 1 and 2 20ths, because that 1 is 20 over 20, right? So if I've got 22 over 20, I can think of that as, I'll write it over here, as 20 over 20 plus 2 over 20. That's the same as 22 over 20, right? So I'm just going to think of it that way and think, well, that 20 over 20, that's one whole number. And I've got 2 over 20 left over, so it's 1 and 2 20ths. But while we're at it, we better notice that that 2 over 20 is actually, they're both even, so I can cut them both in half in that fraction to make it 1 and 1/10 is a good final answer on that. Okay, that's a lot of stuff in that video. And if you're new to fractions and mixed numbers, then watch the video again and see how it goes. And double check. Ask me questions in class if some of that needs a little bit more clarity. But I think you guys can do most of these on your own from here on out. And that's it. I will catch you in the next video.